The rain fell particularly hard that night. Agent Michael Durwood clutched the steering wheel of the armored truck as it sped down a rarely used highway. Beside him, Agent Raina Phillips sat in the passenger seat, flipping through a folder in her lap. "How much longer?" she asked. "We're about 5 minutes out," Agent Durwood replied. Agent Phillips sighed as she closed the folder and returned it to the glove compartment. "Careful. We're supposed to avoid negative emotions, remember?" Agent Durwood said. "Yeah, I remember. I'm trying to focus, but road trips put me in a bad mood." "Well, remember your training. Keep your mind clear." The pair rode in silence for the remainder of the trip. Agent Durwood parked their car outside a diner just off the highway and shut off the engine. "Let's call it in," Agent Durwood said. "You want me to do it?" "Yeah, I need to review the case file again." Agent Phillips dialed a number on her phone and held it to her ear. "Dispatcher, we've arrived at the site of the last incursion. Coordinates are 11722. She paused. "Understood. I'll report back when it's done." "Yeah, I'll tell him." "Okay, thanks." "Our watch is eternal," Agent Phillips said, hanging up the call. "Tell me what?" Agent Durwood asked. "Dispatch wanted to remind you that wraiths travel in pairs," she replied. Agent Durwood laughed. "He makes it sound like this is our first rodeo." He looked over to Agent Phillips. She wasn't laughing. "Oh, come on, cheer up, Phillips. Their watch may be eternal, but ours won't be. Once this is done, we're out. I promise." Agent Phillips picked up a leather messenger bag from the floor and pulled the strap over her shoulder. She shot Agent Durwood a playful look. "I'm holding you to that." A warm smile crossed his face. He leaned over and kissed her. "I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, come on, let's get this done." The two entered the diner. A bell on the door signaled their arrival, to the relief of a nearby waitress. She ran over to the two agents, her face glistening with tears. Several other patrons sat in booths nearby, watching silently. Thank fucking God! Are you two with the police?" the waitress asked. Agent Durwood looked down at her name tag. Mary Ann. "Mary Ann, is it?" "Yes. We're here to help. Can you explain what happened?" The waitress nodded, wiping tears from her eyes and puffing her cheeks as she took shallow, hurried breaths. Agent Phillips laid a hand on her arm. "Hey, it's gonna be okay," she said. Mary Ann nodded, taking a deep breath for the first time since the pair had arrived. "I had a customer at table 4 who seemed upset. I tried to strike up a conversation like I normally do, but he just told me to take his order and leave him alone." Agent Durwood took a notepad out of his jacket pocket and jotted down a few notes with a pen. "Was he upset when he came in?" Mary Ann nodded. "Yeah. After I took his order, he got up and went to the bathroom. That's when I heard a loud crash. I went to see what happened, and that's when I..." She choked back a sob. Agent Phillips touched Mary Ann's shoulder to comfort her as she broke down in tears. Agent Durwood closed his notebook. "I think we've got everything we need from her. Let's not drag this out any longer than we need to." Agent Phillips nodded, reaching into her messenger bag. She pulled out a small wooden music box with a metal crank. Mary Ann eyed it with sudden curiosity. "That is a beautiful music box. Can I hear it?" she asked. Agent Phillips nodded. "Of course." She opened the lid and began turning the crank. The notes came out smooth and comforting. Mary Ann's face relaxed, and her eyes stared forward, still shimmering. The other patrons in the diner all fell silent as well, sitting quietly with blank expressions on their faces. Agent Phillips stopped the music and placed the box back into her bag. "Sometimes I wish that worked on us. There are certainly a few things I wouldn't mind forgetting." Agent Durwood shook his head. "On that, we agree. All right, let's check out the bathroom before they wake up." The two agents walked into the diner's small bathroom. The barely recognizable body of a human male sat slumped beneath a broken sink and a shattered mirror. Streaks of blood painted the floor and the walls. Agent Phillips walked over to the mutilated corpse and knelt down to take a closer look. "This is definitely the work of our mark." "She tore him apart," Agent Phillips said. "Class 3 Wraith. A rage eater from the looks of it." "Ugh, what a way to go," Agent Durwood said, taking down another note in his pad. Agent Phillips reached into her bag and pulled out a small glass vial with an intricate gold cap. She opened it and collected some of the coagulating blood from the open wounds on the corpse. She closed the lid and shook the vial 3 times. The blood inside turned to a crimson mist as she stood up. Agent Phillips nodded. "Got it. Let's head out." The two walked past the diner patrons, all of whom were still trapped in a strange trance. As they stepped outside, Agent Phillips opened the vial, and the pair watched as the bloody mist inside shot out and flew down the highway away from the diner, leaving an ethereal trail behind it. "All right, let's go. She couldn't have gotten far," Agent Durwood said, climbing into their car. About 5 miles down the same mountain highway, Greg Emerson sat hunched over the wheel of his semi, chewing a piece of gum that had long lost its flavor. He turned up the windshield wipers. They frantically tried to keep up with the torrential downpour. A flash of lightning lit up the mountain road for a brief second. Greg's eyes widened as he spotted a woman standing in the middle of the road. He sounded his horn and slammed the brakes. Greg spotted the trailer swinging out from behind him in the mirror on his left. He pulled the semi over onto the nearest road shoulder. He looked up at the view of the road in his rearview mirror. The woman was still standing in the middle of the road. Greg's breaths came in short bursts. His hands were tingling from the adrenaline, still gripping the wheel. He unclasped his seatbelt and swung the driver's door open. The area outside was pitch black, like a starless sky. He turned to his right and opened the glove box. Inside was some paperwork and a pistol. Greg took the gun and reached beneath the passenger seat for his roadside emergency kit. He opened the case and took out a flashlight. He climbed out of the truck, his eyes scanning the highway as the rain crashed down on him. He made his way toward the woman, using the flashlight to light his way. "Hey! What the hell are you doing out here?" he shouted. Greg approached the woman. She had long black hair and pale skin. "Hey! I'm talking to you!" The woman spun around, her body rigid. Greg saw blood dripping from her chin. He raised his pistol as he made eye contact with her. "Listen, I don't know what your deal is, but you'd better stay back if you know what's good for you." The woman was silent. Her eyes had a hollow, distant gaze, like she was staring right through him. "Are you hurt or something?" Greg asked. The woman's eyes widened as he approached. Her nostrils flared open. Her hands twitched at her sides. As he got closer, Greg saw the glint of shackles on her wrists, with severed chains dangling from each arm. He froze. "Where'd you come from? You a prisoner or something?" A sinister grin crawled across the woman's lips. Greg took a step backward onto the road. He raised the pistol as the woman started walking toward him. "Hey, stay right there!" he shouted. She kept coming. Greg backpedaled until he was in the middle of the highway himself. The woman hissed. Greg saw a forked tongue slip out from behind a mouth full of thin fangs. "What the fuck are you?" he screamed. Greg curled his finger around the trigger of the pistol. The woman stopped several steps in front of him. She crouched like an animal, leaping into the air as she released an ear-piercing screech. Greg pulled the trigger as a pair of headlights illuminated the space between them. The gunshot rang out as an armored truck filled the space between them. It hit the woman in mid-air, sending her flying down the highway. Greg lowered his gun as the truck stopped ahead. A man and a woman stepped out. They ran toward the woman on the road. Greg followed close behind. "It's her. Start the ritual before she gets back up," the woman said. "Hey, who are you two?" Greg asked. The man and woman both spun around. "Sir, please return to your vehicle," the woman said. "What the fuck is she?" Greg asked. The woman from the van looked at her companion. The man in turn looked Greg in the eye and replied without hesitation. "This is a Class 3 Wraith. It's a creature that feeds on negative emotions, particularly anger. It's not supposed to be here." "You gotta be kidding me. You think I'm gonna buy that?" The woman raised a hand. "It's the truth. I'm Agent Raina Phillips, and this is Agent Michael Durwood. Please, remain calm. Anger will only make it stronger." Maybe it was the adrenaline, or perhaps Greg was just tired of people bullshitting him his whole life, but her patronizing tone only fanned the flames of rage inside him. He raised his pistol and pointed it at the two agents. "Tell me the truth! Now!" Greg shouted. The pistol fell to the ground as an icy hand wrapped around Greg's throat. He felt his feet come off the ground as he looked down into the eyes of the Wraith. Its mouth opened wider than any human's should. Greg felt the rage pouring out of him in the form of black smoke. It burned his nostrils and filled his mouth with a taste of sulfur. Nearby, Agent Phillips reached into her jacket and pulled out a golden timepiece. Agent Durwood did the same. She pressed the silver switch on the top and the lid popped open. The face inside looked like a clock, but it was lined with 12 intricate symbols where the numbers should be. She turned the switch until the hands landed on the symbol where the 9 would be. She looked over to Agent Durwood, and they made eye contact. He nodded, and they both pressed the switch on their timepieces again. All around the two agents, time froze. Thousands of raindrops sat suspended in the air, glistening like jewels. In front of them, the Wraith stood perfectly still, holding the unfortunate truck driver aloft as a stream of pure rage poured out of his mouth and into hers. Agent Phillips turned to her partner. He slid the timepiece into his jacket pocket and pulled out a glowing blue crystal mounted at the end of a short wooden handle like a paintbrush. He ran forward and dropped to his knees beneath the Wraith and the truck driver. He pressed the crystal tip against the asphalt and drew a circle around the pair that glowed a bright white. In the center of the circle, Agent Durwood drew a symbol between the feet of the two combatants. It was a series of interlocking smaller circles, with sharp diagonal lines intersecting all of them. He stood up and retreated to Agent Phillips' side. "Do it!" he shouted. Agent Phillips pressed the switch on the timepiece, and the rain came down again. A flash of light came from the ground beneath the Wraith's feet. The road ripped open. A deep crimson light poured out from within, followed by an unimaginable heat that turned the raindrops around them into a cloud of steam. Agent Phillips ran into the fray, watching as the Wraith fell into the open space below, its screech filling the night air. She dropped down at the hole's edge and looked inside. Beneath her, a yawning chasm of jagged black rocks opened before her, leading to an endless abyss below. The Wraith was gone, but the truck driver dangled from a jagged rock inside the hole, screaming for help. Agent Phillips reached down toward him. "Grab my hand!" "The portal is closing!" Agent Durwood shouted from behind her. "I can reach him!" Her fingers interlocked with the driver's as a screech echoed deep within the abyssal realm below. "Agent Phillips, get out of there now!" Agent Durwood shouted. "I've almost got him!" she replied. Agent Durwood could barely see through the thick cloud of steam that had filled the air. A figure emerged from the trees. Agent Durwood watched it dart onto the road. Wraiths always travel in pairs. "Agent Phillips! Raina! Look out!" he shouted. Agent Durwood sprinted into the cloud of steam. The figure from the forest latched itself onto Agent Phillips' back. "Raina!" he screamed. Agent Durwood watched as the second Wraith dragged the love of his life into the portal as it slammed shut. He dove onto the ground, fumbling with the crystal brush as the steam began to clear and the rain resumed its downpour all around him. He pressed it onto the ground and tried to draw another circle, but nothing happened. "Come on, you piece of shit! Come on!" A part of him knew it needed to recharge. A deeper part of him knew that once you entered that prison beyond the walls of the sprawl, you never came back. Agent Durwood wasn't willing to accept either truth. He slammed his fists on the ground as his tears mingled with the rain and crashed onto the ground beneath him. "Raina! Fuck! No! Don't leave me here!" he cried. Agent Durwood continued hitting the wet asphalt until his knuckles bled. He stopped when he felt his phone vibrating in his pocket. He stood up and walked back to the van as he answered. "Durwood, it's dispatch. We've lost Agent Phillips' signal. What happened?" the voice on the phone asked. "We opened the gateway, and, a second Wraith attacked her. They both fell inside. I need to open another portal. I have to save her!" The voice on the other end of the line sighed. "Michael, I am so sorry, but you know a soul can't survive in that place. It's like acid. It eats away at anything but the exiled ones." Agent Durwood climbed into the car to escape the rain and slammed the door. "You think I don't know that? Fuck! This can't be happening! Wardens don't die, god damn it!" Agent Durwood took a few deep breaths. "This wasn't an accident. Those Wraiths were too smart. They're not even native to this universe," Durwood said, his voice cold and calculated. "That's correct. Something or someone let them into this world," the dispatcher replied. "Just tell me where it came from." Agent Durwood heard papers shuffling. He gripped the steering wheel with a white-hot intensity as he waited. We believe the source of the incursion to be nearby a town about 30 miles from your location. Someplace called Clinchport. But listen, you need to..." Agent Durwood hung up. He opened the Maps app on his phone and started a route to the nearby town. He didn't know what he would do once he got there, but as a man with nothing left to lose, Agent Durwood had only one goal: vengeance.